Well, Bunning's staff have been threatened with legal action by a woman refusing to wear a face covering in Melbourne. The woman claimed the mandatory mask audit was a breach of her human rights. Here's the video.
And you're discriminating against me.
Discrimination. We're all just trying to all be in this together. We all have
All
to
in
wear a
what
mask.
together? I actually don't. And you're not authorised by the Australian government to even question me about it.
It's a condition of entry of our store as
Then that's discrimination, and I can have you sued personally for discriminating against me as a woman.
Right, well, joining me now is Gerard Dwyer, the National Secretary of the Shop Distributive and Allied Employees Association. Gerard, thanks for joining us. Good morning to you. What's your reaction to that video?
Completely irresponsible and downright wrong. Now, that lady was actually putting at risk those retail workers and everyone else in that store. Face masks aren't about some political statement. They're actually a health measure in our fight as a community against the pandemic. And retail workers, as you see there, in the front line, trying to do the right thing and shouldn't be exposed to pranks like this. Completely irresponsible, wrong. It is a condition of entry, a reasonable condition of entry to that store, and it's a condition of entry in line with Victorian law at present.
She's gone looking for trouble, hasn't she, Gerard? She's walked in with her camera rolling. Yes.
So obviously going out to try and make some sort of statement, a statement that has the capacity to really damage the safety of the community, the safety of retail workers. Not quite sure what they see as the point to be made here. The point is, we are facing a pandemic that this country has never had to face before. This is it's a health issue that we're dealing with. The masks are in place for a reason. They've been put in place on the grounds of advice from health authorities. We're asking everyone in the community to mask up, particularly when you go into retail stores. Those retail workers are on the front line serving the Australian community, have done an exemplary job since March this year. Don't put our people at risk.
It's amazing. Look at that video, and they held their nerve so well, those workers, didn't they?
They were outstanding. And as I said, retail workers since March this year have been outstanding. But congratulations to those Bunning staff. Exemplary behaviour, really handled the situation well, didn't escalate it at all, but those guys were at risk. And we're asking people to make sure you mask up and follow all of the safety procedures inside Bunnings and other retail outlets. The industry, we've got an SDA 10-point safety plan for COVID that's been in place for several months. Most major retailers are following it, and we're asking the community now to do the right thing and mask up.
Does this place retail workers in a bit of a bind at the moment, Gerard, because retailers are the one, according to the government, they're the ones who have got to enforce the law. But when you've got some nutters in there who are out to cause some trouble, I mean, what exactly are they expected to do?
Well, it's putting retail workers in a completely unfair position if they're required to enforce the law. And in fact, Daniel Andrews has said it's not up to workers or the general public. These laws are to be enforced by police or people with the relevant authority. And I must say, I'm advised that companies like Bunnings with standalone outlets have got security guards, making sure that people have got masks as they enter, and we actually welcome that. That's the place where it should happen, on entry to the store, not for the staff. How this lady got past that, I'm not quite sure. Getting further details this morning, but the processes in place are sound, and we're urging all retailers to make sure that it's security or police that are enforcing these laws, not the retail workers inside the store.
Do any of her claims actually hold any water, that she was discriminated against, or that it's a breach of the Charter of Human Rights?
Absolutely not. And in fact, I think she should get some legal advice. But the fact is, she went into a place that's got the right to put in place conditions of entry, reasonable condition of entry, in line with Victorian law at present and in line with the advice of medical authorities. She had no justification for not wearing her mask. Those retail workers in Bunnings did an outstanding job. We're just now asking the rest of the community to ensure that they do the right thing when they go into stores and they're masking up.
Gerard, just a couple of quick ones before you go. How concerned are you that Josh Frydenberg is drawing economic inspiration from Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan?
Well, Margaret Thatcher, I don't think, was a unifying character, in fact, quite a divisive character in the UK. What Australia and the whole community at the moment needs is a sense of unity. The fact that we need to approach the pandemic and put in place measures that are done by consensus. The Australian trade union movement, led by the ACTU, has been engaged with the government during the pandemic, has worked with business, has tried to put in place a range of measures to ensure that people are able to hold on to their jobs. And don't forget, it was the trade union movement that called for the wage subsidy, the JobKeeper, that came into effect. Not the perfect model that we're after, but a wage subsidy nonetheless. And JobKeeper has worked and it's been extended. And that's the sort of cooperation we need, not sort of calling out for divisive historical figures like Margaret Thatcher.
Are you expecting the emergency changes to workplace laws to be extended, and is the union going to have to be flexible on this?
Well, that's a question for the trade union movement generally.
Sure.
And there are a number of awards that were up in the first round. They're the ones that they'll be looking at as to whether or not there's an extension. They need to be fact-based in terms of any extension has to be on the basis of sound evidence. We'll be working, like other unions, with the ACTU to analyse that, but it's something that the parties need to sit down and work through.